Welcome to the Spurs News Podcast, your home for all things Tottenham Hotspur. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Spurs News Podcast. I am Sam. It is our special for August, so not the normal weekly one where we talk about the games, but one where we pick one topic in particular and sort of take a dive on it. This month, that topic is around loyalty, Tottenham Hotspur, the ticket prices, and joining me from the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust, it's Anthoulla. How are you?
Hi Sam, it's great to join you. Not too bad at all. I had a little bit of a long day, but it's great to be on the show. Thank you for inviting me on here.
Well, you're very welcome. You're very big on the podcast circuit. You know, you're in high demand, so I feel like I've done very well.
Yes, trying to spread the word on ticket prices. So I've been trying to get around as many podcasts as I can to reach as many fans as I can to talk about a very important issue.
Do you find that you sort of get to the point where you're answering the same questions though? Do you have if I hear that one more time? Because I always think about those people who do like the promoting films, you know, and they got to sit in a room and they get asked the same questions by reporters for like an entire day. By the end of that day, they must be tired of it, you know?
Yeah, I guess. But the thing is, it's just so important that I don't mind repeating myself. If I have to repeat myself 100 times to get, you know, even if a couple more people hear the message and it resonates, I don't mind because it's so important. But yeah, obviously, it's to say it would be similar questions and same questions, but I honestly don't mind. I think it's such an important issue that we shouldn't shy away from. And
I'm with you. It is an important issue. It is around. For me anyway, I discussed it a little bit on the first podcast for the year, which you kindly listened to, by the way. Thank you.
Yes, I did.
To me, it's exploiting loyalty, fan loyalty. You know, and and it kind of goes down that line of just where football clubs and football fans, it's a very unique relationship compared to other businesses. I've seen a lot of stuff in Facebook comments and Instagram and Twitter where a lot of people are just like, oh, if you don't like it, don't pay it. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But
that's the fundamental issue of why it's actually to do with exploiting loyalty, because if you don't like something in other sort of financial terms, like going to a restaurant and paying for food, or you don't like the price of something online, you'll look for a cheaper option of the same sort of product, right?
Agreed, yeah.
But when you've been brought up supporting your club, Tottenham Hotspur, you're not going to be like, the prices are too expensive now, I'm just going to go support someone else. That's not how loyalty works. And it's a very different business. Football's a very different business because of the uniqueness of fan loyalty and supporters. We are not customers, or as much as, you know, I agree that football is a business at the same time, and that part of it needs to be maintained, and to make sure that, you know, we're not being outrageous with spending and not ending up in a dangerous situation. But our club's not there. It's the 9th richest club in the world, according to Deloitte's research. Yeah. So we are not in a financial position where an extra 2.5 million that they would be getting from these ticket price rises is going to break the bank and cause us to be in an irresponsible position, quite frankly.
No, I mean, and see, to me, to you, 2.1 million?
2.5.
So
roughly
2.5
about 2.5
million.
Yeah.
So we're sort of saying, you know, approximately. So 2.5 million over a year. To me and you, and for the average fan, that sounds like a hell of a lot of money. That sounds like a kind of insane amount. But from the research I know you've done at the Trust, you sort of put that into perspective of what that is compared to the rest of the income for the club, didn't you?
Yes, we did. So we worked out, based on the financial records from July 2022, that it would be 2.4% of their match day revenue. Now, their match day revenue isn't just the ticket revenue. It also includes things like food and beverage, any sort of thing that come through. So actually, if anything, the 2.4% is an overestimate, because we couldn't take away the ticketing aspect from the match day revenue.
No, of course not.
And then from their total revenue, it'd be a 0.6%. of their total revenue. So it's really peanuts. Yes, yes. Not, it's not even a percent, Sam. It's 0.6%.
0.6%. See, what's kind of interesting in that again is the kind of it's so minute, and yet it is such a massive impact on people. You know, if you just take into account the cost of living crisis at the moment, we've gone through COVID and everything into that. Now, am I right in saying that the club have frozen matchday tickets for the last couple of years? Is that correct?
Yes, so since we moved to the new ground, our matchday ticket pricing has been frozen. That is true.
Yeah.
However, we do pay one of the most expensive ticket prices in the Premier League and the most expensive in Europe as well. So our prices are already set at the higher end of the bar. So the worry here is you know, increasing prices every 4 years, let's say, is where do you draw the line with that? How high do those increases go before it stops? And it also sets a dangerous precedent across the Premier League, because quite a lot of clubs have actually said that they benchmark across prices across the Premier League. So if they're benchmarking and we're raising our prices, then every club's is also going to go up as well. But what the club have done as well that makes it, you know, even though the prices haven't increased, they have limited concessions across the stadium, which is an issue, because if you can't get concessionary pricing for your children, let's say, you're going to pay an adult price for your children to take them into a game. So could be looking between £230 to £400 for a game if they can't access the concessionary seats, because the club has said that concessionary pricing is essentially subject to availability per block. So you know, if they're limited and you can't get them, then you're gonna have to pay out at price.
I mean, I discussed this very briefly last week, because this is where, I mean, I know as part of the trust has had meetings with the club face to face, and I'm guessing digitally as well, email exchanges around tickets, and I believe that would be yourself dealing with that. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So we spoke to them about ticket prices in April before the season ended. So this was after the season ticket price freeze. And we said, you know, we want the matchday prices to also be frozen. They knew that. They were aware that we didn't want any price rises. And we also asked in that meeting to be consulted on any sort of decisions that were being made around matchday pricing. The next we heard from them was on the day of their announcement of the price rises. We heard from them at 10 a.m. that morning. Well, they messaged us actually the night before to say, are you free for a quick call in the morning about tickets? They didn't actually tell us what it was about, but you could kind of guess. So that morning they then said to us that the prices were going to be risen. And that the announcement was going to be later in the day. Now, our argument here is that that's not consultation.
No.
That's just telling us what the decision's already been made. So that's not actually consultation over what the price rises are going to be, what we think about that. You know, they didn't actually give us an opportunity to sort of advocate for our members and fans around the kind of price rises we're talking about. And we are talking about, you know, around 8% all the way up to about 20% in some areas of the ground for certain games. So, you know, really they should be consulting with the trust on aspects of ticketing, and shouldn't just be announcing them without sort of speaking to fans first.
And the actual announcement as well, from memory, because on the day it kind of got buried in like a jumble of stuff, and I remember it took a little while for it to kind of really, for people really to pick up on it.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, from your point of view, obviously, and please, I'm not asking for sort of, you know, detail. Well, I said to them this and they said this, but obviously the trust would have gone back on that and would have said, hey, this isn't consultation, this is just you telling us what you're going to do. What do they actually reply, if you don't mind sharing, when you say all fans are against this? What is the actual line there?
So I guess usually they'll just sort of say, unfortunately the information doesn't come from the ones that people that are making the decision. It's coming from the heads of the department, so they're sort of just relaying messages of decisions that are already being made. So unfortunately, they can't really say very much back to us, if I'm honest. But they make our sentiments known about these things, and often sometimes they'll say that the price rises may not actually have the impact we say, so we'd have to wait and see. So those sort of things, it's not there's
sorry to interrupt you. When they say won't have the impact you say, are they referring to they don't think that they'll struggle to sell out the stadium, or what are they referring to?
Yeah, so they that their price rises are reasonable, and that the price rises are because of increased operational costs. So it's needed for the club to raise the prices, and they have been frozen for 4 years. So they are only just rising now, is essentially what they would say.
Yeah. Okay. So they feel almost like in line with inflation, even though inflation is very inflated currently. They feel over the 4 years this is reasonable.
Yes.
Okay. You're absolutely right. I mean, Tottenham already charge, the highest, among the highest in Europe even, let alone just the Premier League. I think I read recently the average ticket price is among the highest. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's right. It's amongst the highest. The only reason we couldn't say it is the highest is because of Arsenal, who are pretty much on par with us when it comes to Category A games.
Yeah.
And Fulham, who have just announced some ridiculous pricing in
their new stand.
in their Riverside stand.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason that we couldn't say that we have the most expensive tickets, but we are on par. So our most expensive ticket is £103, Arsenal's is 103, and Fulham's is now 105.
Yeah.
And our cheapest is a Category C game, which is roughly around, I think, £47 in the family stand, something like that. Don't quote me on that. Please have a look at the match day pricing, but I'm sure it's around that.
Okay, no one is going to hold you to it. You're fine.
Yeah. Whereas if you look at Arsenal's, for example, their Category A matches are on par with us, but their Bs and Cs are actually very, very cheap. The most expensive that you'd ever pay for a Category B game, in fact, is 47, which is our lowest when it comes to a Category C. Yeah. So,
And for fans, cause we have listeners all around the world, fans of the club. And obviously they're going to be listening to this with interest because they are fans of the club, and it is of interest even if they're not match-going fans. When you say Category A, B and C, that is deemed by the club ahead of the season, the fixtures. So they will deem an Arsenal game, Chelsea game as Category A. They'll deem other games B and then C. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. And it depends on the club on what they categorise each club. So every club will have a different sort of categorisation for the
it's kind
of, the 19.
It's kind of rude to some teams, I gotta say. It's kind of a bit harsh.
Yeah, it is. Although I will say that a couple of years ago when we demoted West Ham from an A to a B, I was quite chuffed at that. But yes. Yes.
I mean, I'm guessing they're back to A now because they've won all of Europe, I believe. Every West Ham fan I know has told me that.
So recently. They're not actually. They're still a Category B. It's actually Newcastle that we've brought up to a Category A.
And am I right in saying that this season in the Premier League, it's our lowest amount of Category Cs?
Yeah, that's right. They've also knocked a C, so they've moved one of the clubs from a C to a B in the process. So they've knocked our C as well. So we've now only got 4 Cs.
Oh, and there once was 7. No, okay, so it was nearly a joke. Okay, so they've put the prices up across the categories and reduced the lowest category. Okay, so that's another very cunning ploy that was snuck in. I see a lot of comment, and I get into these discussions sometimes with social media, and it's very difficult because tone of voice doesn't come across sometimes in a written conversation, and I think some people can have a very basic misunderstanding of what the trust are actually trying to say in amongst this, which is, please don't correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth here. It's like, we're not having a go at people. If you can afford to go and you think the ticket's reasonable, that's absolutely fine. We're trying to point out that not only does it impact people today there's a lot of people who now cannot afford to go. I'm raising my hand right here. I cannot afford to take my daughter to the stadium now. It's impossible for me. You're also, the current owners, they like to call themselves custodians. They have, especially a certain Mr. Levy, has referred to himself as that a number of times, and almost like he kind of wears that like a badge of honour. I am the custodian of this club, and one day I want to pass it on. And this is just me now, this is just me sort of saying this, but most Tottenham fans who are stadium-going fans are there because a parent took them, an uncle, a grandfather, a grandparent, someone took them. An auntie, a cousin, someone, and they got hooked, and they became a fan. And then when they were an adult, they took their kids, their nephews, their nieces, their cousins, whoever, and they became hooked. If the current custodians are pricing out a generation of kids, and they are, concessions are gone, prices are up, surely long term, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I couldn't put it better myself, Sam. You've pretty much summed up kind of the message I wanted to get across. The thing with it is that they need to think long and hard of the kind of fans they want to come into the stadium and what the atmosphere is going to be like, and they need to maintain that atmosphere that we've had from the old ground and the generation of fans coming through. If you're not encouraging the younger fans to come, you're not going to get a new fan base coming through at all, and the traditions of our football club will be lost. I know that sounds very sadistic, but
no, you're quite right, and to me that's football. As much as obviously I feel very passionate about Tottenham Hotspur, that's football full stop. Every football club, especially you think of grassroots football and stuff like that, and people who go, but a lot of people who travel in from all around London and stuff who are match going fans. Just to be blunt here, there's a lot of football clubs in London. Throughout the football pyramid, there are a lot in and around London. And if you cannot afford to take your child to a Tottenham game anymore, you're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that, Sam, because not just with London, but quite a few suburbs outside of London, we've actually had quite a lot of emails come through. So when we put out our call to arms, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later, what part of that was asking fans who have been affected by the price rises to email us in. Yeah. And actually, we've had a fair few people say, I've been priced out of taking my children, and in fact, I've been taking them to non-league clubs down the road that are quite close and actually have a good family atmosphere.
I know someone who's taking their kids to Stevenage this season. They've actually bought a season ticket rather than going. They said they could only afford to do about 5 home games in a season last year. This year they can't afford that at all.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the kind of emails we've been getting. We've had probably around maybe 100 emails already so far. Yeah. So, it's a running theme here, and it's actually quite dangerous for the Premier League to be losing fans and losing young people, as we saw in COVID, for example, without fans there creating an atmosphere and cheering the team on. Football really isn't very much of a spectacle.
It's amazing how quickly they forgot that.
Well, exactly, and TV companies aren't going to be paying for rubbish on the TV, are they? So I think it is very important to maintain our fan base and make sure that football doesn't become overpriced for the everyday fan.
No, I agree with you. You talked about the call to arms. Would you like to sort of run through that now, like the bullet points to this? Because in my experience, I mean, I've been a fan of the club since 1990, 1991. I'm old. And I've been doing a podcast now talking about Tottenham for a number of years. This is the 204th episode of this show, which is insane to me.
That's
and
mad.
It is really mad. I've been
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I think. I'm not sure. And I've run a Facebook page. We've got a Facebook page of like 85,000 Tottenham fans on, which is a blessing and a curse, because it's a lot of fun sometimes, and then other times you just despair at humanity. But that's social media in large. In that time, I've been speaking with members of the trust that I got to know via social media. A lady called Kat, who's no longer with the trust, but a different role within football. She kindly came on the podcast a couple of times, and she kind of gave me a little bit of an insight into the way they operated, the way they wanted to operate, the frustrations at times, but mostly was a very positive outlook. But one of the things I've noticed, the Trust has never really gone into open warfare with the club. The European Super League did it, but it's always kind of been, this is bloody annoying. We encourage fans to, voice their opinions and let us know their opinions, and we'll put it to the club. For an actual call to arms, it did surprise me. How difficult a decision was it?
So actually, I'm just going to correct you a little bit there, Sam, because actually Kat did do a few sort of call to arms against the club. One being the ESL, the European Super League stuff that happened, where we did call the ball to resign over that.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, and then we also did a "Don't Price Me Out" campaign when we moved to the new ground because of the prices that were coming out. They didn't quite catch the attention of fans as we quite would have liked, unfortunately. But there have been various occasions where, when Kat was on the board, that we did do this sort of thing.
I think me feel bad now because
sorry,
no,
that's
I didn't
okay.
support Kat enough. No. Don't tell her.
Don't worry.
Don't.
I won't tell her.
So I spoke to Sam earlier, and he was like going over all the campaigns you fought and how he was right there with you. Oh no, I feel bad.
No, I think this one's just captured more because I think everything that we've gone through in the last 4 years as Spurs fans, and also the fact that pricing is just so high at the stadium and the cost of living crisis, I think it just resonates a lot more with fans in this day and age than it did maybe back, like 6-7 years ago. So I think it's one of those things where we sat down and really thought about it, and we were like, no, we need to do this because people are being priced out, and there is a real fear here as well that season ticket pricing will be next, because they froze season ticket pricing for this season, but everything else went up. So premium season tickets went up, match day pricing went up, and they were considering raising season ticket prices, but at the time they got sort of backed into a corner, us lobbying, but also because of what was happening at the time around renewal period, which was the Paratici debacle and Conte's press conference. So I think they and then the media on the back of that then started saying that they were going to be raising season ticket prices by 10 to 11%.
I did remember
which was
making
which was just causing a lot of fan rage, and I think they had no choice but to freeze those prices. But I think if we do nothing now and sit back, I really can see the same happening next renewals, whereby prices could be increased, and we are unlikely to be, well, hopefully with Ange at the wheel, unlikely to be in a situation like that again.
Just to be clear, and that is Ange. What's his surname? I'm making everyone who comes on the show pronounce it to make sure they're getting it right.
He's Greek.
Yeah, I know. I know of everyone who comes on here, you're the one who's going to nail it. But still, I had to... And also, it kind of helps reinforce it for me that I'm getting it right.
His first name is Angelo, which means angel.
You're kidding me, is that true?
Yeah.
Oh,
Angelo.
Wow. He is literally our angel.
He is literally an angel, yeah.
I don't think... When I picture angels, I don't picture them with an Aussie accent. I don't know why. Right, mate, yeah. Although there is something delightfully disarming about a man looking that angry, answering with that much of a tone in his voice, but then adding mate. Because I don't know how he does it, but it sounds like a threat. Like that,
a little bit.
Like that German massive forehead reporter that Billy T is a massive fan of. You held up that shirt. It's like, you got your laugh, did you, mate? And I'm thinking,
mate, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're dead. You're dead to him. Sorry. The call to arms. Right. It's the Spurs news show. I can't stay serious for that long. I have to do something stupid.
No, I like it. That's great.
The call to arms. So if you are to give me some bullet points to the call to arms, what is it you're hoping from fans, both match going who will be going to the Manchester United game, but also from fans who perhaps can't attend? What can they do?
So we'll be holding our demonstration on the Saturday at the United game from
Yep.
3:45 to 4:45
Yep.
opposite the ticket office on the High Road.
Yep.
I am in the process of sourcing a megaphone. We will be having banners, flags. Yes, absolutely, a megaphone.
Who is going to be on the
chanting
megaphone?
about ticket prices.
Wow.
Me to begin with. I may have to hand it over because I'm not very good at coming up with chants.
See, you've done this now. Well, you're about to say loads of sensible things, and everyone should really listen. But I'm fixated on this. Do you have a chant in mind?
TBC.
Oh, can I make some suggestions? Most of them will not involve swearing, but some will.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to make suggestions.
I
encourage everyone to make suggestions.
We won't go until we're sold. Leave out. How about that one?
No, it's about
I did that off the top of my head. That was, come on.
It was, very good improv. However, this is about ticket prices, so we need to very, very much stay at the clear message that it's about stop ticket price rises, and stop exploiting loyalty. I understand there's a lot of discontent with the ownership and the board, and a lot of it is valid completely, but this is about ticket prices, and we have to stay at in that message, otherwise it dilutes the argument.
I 100% agree with you. I apologize for
being
silly.
I thought it was brilliant though. I enjoyed it.
You've put me in my place again twice in one podcast. So we have that is 3:45 to 4:45 opposite the ticket office. Everyone go into the game, whether you're happy paying or whatever, just go, stand. If for nothing else, you're going to hear some amazing chants via a megaphone.
There's also going to be flyers, and there's going to be badges, some good badges for people if they'd like them, which says "Stop Exploiting Loyalty" on them.
Can I have a badge?
Of course you can have a badge.
I'm not going to be. I'm not there though. Can you send me a badge?
Damn it. We probably won't be able to send them, unfortunately.
Oh, wow. Okay, I see.
But for those at home, there will be ways to get involved.
Just saying Daniel Levy said he'd send me a badge saying ticket prices are cool and I'm good with it. I'm just saying he'd send me a badge.
He definitely won't be sending you that, unfortunately.
It's $4.99 plus postage, he said. Yeah. I made him an offer of £1 and the rest in instalments, and he just hung up on me. I don't know what that's about. Sorry, I've done it to you again. So we've got that. It's going to be 4:45 until 4:45, and obviously then fans can go in, because I'm guessing the key is we want to voice this outside the ground to make it clear, but when we go in, we want to be supporting the team.
Exactly. It's Ange's first game at home. We want him to feel welcome. We want fans to get behind the team and him, and we want to see a good display from the boys, and make it a nice warm environment for Ange, really. So we want to be in there disrupting that first game for him, and we thought this would be a good position to start in, to see how much support there is for this movement, because if we are prepared to step up action if we're not listened to. So although this is the first game, we're not going to be doing anything in the ground. That's not to rule out that any further things could be in the ground.
Of course.
But this is really for people to come along, express their discontent with the ticket price rises, tell us how it's affecting them, get their thoughts, get people involved on the street. It'll be brilliant, I think, hopefully.
And also, I don't want to speak
on such an important issue.
I don't want to speak for you on this, but if there are fans going to the match, they've listened to this or they've seen the social media and they're unsure, I'm going, I think it's all right. Maybe they can come across, have a conversation, and understand why the trust are making this stand. I'm guessing you'd be happy with that as well.
Yeah, of course. More than welcome to have people to come and speak to us. People, if people are on the fence, even people that disagree, to be honest, if you want to come and have a chat with us and see where we're coming from, we are more than welcome to listen. And we love those. We love that, really. We love engaging with as many people as we can. So everyone's more than welcome.
I'd be very interested to see if anyone does that. I'd like to think they would. I have seen their end of last season, there were multiple people doing Levy out protests, to dares to here and all stuff like that. And I've seen once again they plan to be there for every home game this season, which is fine. More power to them. They're using their voice. I did see via social media today they plan to have their protest and then come and join you. So they plan to basically voice that and then come and stand with you in solidarity around ticket prices.
Yeah, exactly. They've given us their word that there won't be any leave out banners at our protest. They're having theirs earlier so that they can then pack up, and then some of them who wish to can come and support our cause. And we wouldn't stop anyone from having any sort of demonstration that they want. So, and the fact that they're having theirs, just a bit further down and actually before ours is actually quite respectful of them, to be honest.
No, I agree.
Because we don't, we're not demonstrating anything for Leave Out, ENIC Out. That's not our cause, and that's not something we can get behind because our membership is just so split on the opinions of it, really. But this, with ticket prices, there was a lot of backing when it came to our fan survey results that just came out last week, where it said that 80% were discontent with season ticket prices, and that a lot of members were not renewing that. About, I think, 67% of members, something like that, don't quote me, have a look at our fan survey, were not happy with the prices and didn't find value for money and things. So actually there's a lot of flavour for this, which is why we can
I would assume there has been a number of people not renewing, and the reason why I assume that is because I have friends who are members and we're on a waiting list, and like their number on the waiting list was big. And yet this summer got offered a season ticket, which to me kind of suggests there is definitely a lot of people said no. Now,
you're not far wrong.
I don't know how you're feeling about this, but I did put a call out to our social media for questions because I said someone from the trust were coming on board. Are you feeling brave?
Oh gosh!
Now this is from social media.
How much abuse did you get?
Oh, loads actually. Yeah, I'm kind of It's like water off a duck's back now. I did reply to one person who I was saying it was a waste of time and all this stuff. I said, you're right, a lot of people might not show up, as it would appear the majority just want to bitch and whine rather than actually doing something. I think it was possibly passive-aggressive on my part, but never mind.
Never mind. Appreciate the backing, the support.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's not just because I'm scared of cat. Anyway, so I put out these sort of messages. We've got a couple of large platforms, one on Instagram, one on Facebook. Now we're going to start with Instagram. We only had the one reply on Instagram, and to be honest with you, it's not it's charming. And the only reason why I'm going to put it to you is because I think it can help us maybe dispel a little bit of a myth that's out there.
Okay.
So this is from Peds73. Lovely balding gentleman in a pink shirt. Waste of time, nothing changes, 22 years of failure. Supporters Trust does nothing and has been complicit in how shit the club is. Now, the reason why I've left that in, right, and I'm going to reframe this gentleman's question for you, is on a regular basis, whenever the Trust says anything, I see accusations of the Trust are complicit, the Trust are on the take, the Trust get incentive, the Trust get this. We can't rely on them, the Trust is corrupt. I even saw someone the other day say someone won a raffle that was rigged from the Trust, and I'm just like, this is weird now. This is very odd. Now, I had a conversation with Kat some time ago, a couple of years ago. I made a joke that she got free chips. She corrected me in the... Oh, yeah, she corrected me. And even, like, they don't even bring biscuits to the meetings anymore, Sam. I was like, wow. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
we don't get free anything.
Can you dispel this myth once and for all?
Yeah. We don't get free anything. All we get is grief. I'm pretty sure they find us as annoying as we find them sometimes. But actually, sometimes we do agree on things as well. I think it's a real love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
We don't get anything from them. We really push back on a lot of things. And to say back to the guy on Instagram about 22 years and nothing's changed. Yeah. The Trust, I wasn't on the Trust for some of these things, but the Trust is the reason we have a young adult category. The Trust is the reason why we campaigned heavily on the £30 price cap across away ticket prices. the trust is the reason why furlough was overturned for the staff at Tottenham. I remember that one over COVID.
That was also me. I replied to every tweet saying pay the staff. I made my
Yeah.
contribution.
Yes, the trust came out with it,
I
and
know,
fans help. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, we don't just sit there and allow the club to do things. We do push back, and it is really difficult when some of the decisions are made and then we've not had any input or they've ignored what we've said.
Yeah.
So I can understand why I can semi-understand why there's a narrative that nothing's changed.
Yeah.
But we do try, and I think it is quite demoralising when, I can't speak for the rest of the board, but personally, when you hear things like that, it's really demoralising, because everyone on the board is there because they care and they want to make a change and make a difference, and they're trying. And then when you hear that from people online, it is really demoralising, because it's like, well, what am I doing this for? If people are saying that it's pointless and they're attacking me, it's like, well, why should I do this anymore? So it is really difficult, and I don't want anyone to be like, oh, she's trying to make us feel sorry for her. No, it's nothing like that. It's just, I'm saying what it is.
No one feels sorry for her at all. I know the bribe she takes. She takes donuts for tickets and everything. Don't listen to her.
I wish I took donuts. I wish I got free tickets. No, joking. I don't get.
Just
anything.
Just to be absolutely clear. I mean, the people who listen to this show know me, so it's okay. Yeah, it was a joke. I've tried loads of times. They won't do it at all. It's funny how these things grow, though, because it's almost like Chinese whispers. Like, someone at some point said, you can't, don't believe anything the trust say. They're just mouthpieces for the club. And then, like, a year later, that's become, don't trust them. They're mouthpieces for the club, and they're all on the take, and they all get flown to Barcelona for a weekend on Daniel Levy's private jet. It's like, what?
I've never been on a private jet in my life.
No, me neither. But I'm not
Would
likely
be nice,
to.
wouldn't it?
I don't know. I'm not a very good flyer.
Oh, fair. I like to fly.
I know you do. Show off. You're one of the people I follow and then have to, like, mute you when you're away. Ugh. You and your holiday snaps. But anyway, Facebook gives us a few other questions. Are you ready?
Yep.
A gentleman called Ryan Miller, who is a regular listener of the show, says, how much does the board actually listen to the trust? From a supporter's perspective, it feels as if they do not listen at all. The increase in ticket prices being a prime example. Also, can you give an example of where the board did acknowledge and actually did action something that the trust put forward?
Okay.
That's a nice question, wasn't it?
It is. Nice. I was going to say, I was like, that's very well worded, and no criticism there. So I really like that.
He's a good lad, Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can understand from where you come from. It looks like they don't listen to us.
Yeah.
I think on some of the bigger things where we push back, they probably don't really listen to certain things, unfortunately. So, but it's also like they don't give us the chance to actually say. So, for example, this ticket pricing thing, we weren't consulted on. So it's very difficult to actually make a change when the decision's already been made and already been announced. Yeah. So you can see why we're already on the back foot with things like that. An example of where we've put forward something and there was a consideration was back when, I wasn't on the board at the time, but the young adult category for matchday pricing, that was something that the trust pushed for and the trust suggested, and it was implemented. So there are certain considerations that a club does have, and the thing is, it's so difficult to pick out things because we speak to them on a very regular basis, the heads of department, on loads of things. And actually they do take on fan input on quite a lot. I think it's just some of the bigger decisions where it goes above the heads to make decisions. I think that's where it's a bit trickier to get them to listen, but we do try, and when we don't succeed we do things like this. So
got it. Mark Corder, also on Facebook. Now, this one, I know where Mark's driving with this. His question is, what is Daniel Levy's current vision and plan for the football side of the club? Now, Mark follows the club very closely. He's a fan of the page, etc. He comments on a regular basis. And I think what he's driving at here is, do they actually communicate this to the trust? I know I've seen on a regular basis the trust ask the club to be more communicative. Is there actually ever anything on those lines that comes across, or is it always just mind your own business?
So I've gotten this up to just now from our website. In February, we asked them. We asked them 4 questions about fan direction and club direction and strategy, and they responded to it, and we published their answers. Okay. Now, the answers we didn't find very satisfactory in certain parts.
You shocked me.
Yeah. So they've actually said, our club strategy going forward, therefore, our strategy is clear: to drive and generate revenues to invest in all of our football activities. Football success, in turn, supports the growth of our club, our fan base, and consequently wider commercial opportunities and partnerships, which then deliver further revenue to invest in football, the virtuous, sustainable circle on which our club model is based. We shall develop new and diverse revenue streams to increase recurring revenues. Third-party events such as conferencing, NFL, concerts, boxing and rugby are all examples of this. Our stadium is a key component to our revenue growth. Yet, unbelievably, we have still not seen and enjoyed a full season at our new stadium with attendances. So that's essentially some of the stuff they've said. We want to be consistently qualifying for Champions League and challenging for and winning major honours. Returning to Champions League this season was important, although we acknowledge the number of teams competing for those. So this was in February 2023. So that's kind of what they've given us. So I guess the direction is they want to improve recruitment, qualify for Champions League, and increase revenue streams to then put that back into the football club, is what they've said.
Yeah, I can understand why you weren't very happy with that response. I work in a very corporate world, and basically
they're very corporate answers. Which is why we weren't happy with it.
Yeah, there are. Don't get me wrong. There are times with communication you need to be a bit corporate. You need to be a bit, kind of don't offend anyone. Make sure you cover all your bases and hit these points. But I feel like they consistently get the balance wrong. And my favourite example of that is Coy's Daniel, which to this moment now, I still cannot work out who thought that was a good idea. Like someone got paid. Someone literally is earning a salary and said, I know what everyone I love. This statement right now, everyone's so angry with the position the club is. Arguably our best manager in the recent years is just joining a rival and everything, so we need to put a statement out there. If you just add Coy's Daniel in the end, you'll be like their mate. They'll love you.
It did make me laugh when I saw it.
The best thing was, Twitter can be an awful, awful place, but at the same time...
It was great, wasn't it?
There can be some hilarity. And the sheer... For weeks and weeks, everyone was just signing off every tweet, Coy's Daniel. Oh, yeah, it was great. I had a lot of fun with that anyway. Okay, a couple more from Facebook. Stefan Cruz Alvarez, who is sometimes co-host on this show. He says, how much of a say do the trust want to have in the actual running compared to how much they have currently? You'd like to just take over the whole thing, surely.
As in the whole club?
Yeah, exactly. I could see you in charge, hiring and firing the managers.
I don't think I'm qualified, unfortunately.
I don't think they are, so you're fine.
I think that's a really simple answer. I think that's what the trust wants, and what all fans should want is that the fans should be at the heart of every decision that's made.
Yeah.
And on certain aspects, such as the ticket price rise, that isn't what's happening.
No, I agree.
So how much voice do we want? We want the voice to actually put those views across and make sure that decisions that are being made have fans' interests at heart. And the club is open and honest about those sort of decisions. For contrast, to just give you an example of a well-run club, Brentford. So we're speaking to a colleague from Brentford Supporters Trust who was saying that over the summer period they were sat down by the club and actually confidentially shown the finances and shown the revenue streams and shown matchday ticket pricing, and that it doesn't actually have a massive impact to revenue streams, and they chose to freeze the prices. But the fact that they sat down with the trust and trusted them with that sort of information and had a grown-up conversation where they could put those views across and really listen and get the fan trust to understand that. I think that just shows that Brentford has. They're very lucky, Brett, that Brentford has fans' interests at heart when it comes to the running of their club, and that's all we're really asking for here. It's not actually very much when you sit and think about it.
I agree.
But it's a very difficult thing to achieve with our club at the moment, unfortunately.
So you don't want to be CEO, you just want them to listen to the fans. Yeah, okay, all right. It's not a power grab. All right, just checking. I didn't know if you were after it for the CV. And finally from Facebook, Matt Cornish says, what is the actual point in supporting Tottenham now when the actual football is of so little importance compared to the primary goal of greed? I might answer this one for you. I might be diplomatic for you. The ticket price rise after 3 seasons of dire shit, and now the added bonus of selling one of our greatest players purely for business reasons, shows the utter contempt that Enoch has for us fans. The Trust are very good, rational people, but they're not listened to. Levy honestly couldn't show less contempt for the fans than he is now. Now, you have a difficult role where you have to speak for the Trust and the fans and still work with the club and have a relationship with the club where you want to help people and get stuff done. So I do not think it's the Trust position to say, yeah, you're right, they are a bunch of assholes. And that is, of course, not your position. And even if it was, you wouldn't voice that because you're far too good.
And look, at the end of the day, we will always put our membership and fans first with the decisions we make, even if that upsets the club and angers them in any way. That's what we're there to do. So you're right, it is a fine balance, and it's a tricky balance, and we didn't take the decision to protest lightly at all. We've tried to speak to them. We've tried to change their minds. The fan advisory board tried to change their minds. And when you get to a stage where we're not being listened to, quite rightly, what that person said is quite right. Right now, we're not being listened to. The next step is action, and unfortunately, this is what we have to do. It's difficult. Like, we don't want to be doing this. We don't want to be holding protests against our club. That is not what we want to be doing, but sometimes it's needed. And we need to be listened to in this, and fans need to not be taken for granted anymore, and their loyalty needs to not be exploited.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Now, emailed questions. We have a few more. Are you ready? I'll try and whistle through them.
Sure.
This one is Clem in New York City, USA. Can fans abroad get involved in protests? And if so, how?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. So on the day, if you can't get involved, we're going to be asking fans to basically send us, if you've got Twitter, if you want to email us pictures and we can put them up with your permission, Facebook, whatever, put pictures of you holding signs up saying stop exploiting loyalty, stop ticket price rises. I've created an Instagram frame that will be going live in a couple of days or so, that people can use as well, and it's also on Facebook because metaverse and all of that, so it will also be available on Facebook.
The metaverse.
So people can use that in that asset as well, that filter frame. So there are ways of getting involved if you can't come to the protest, and it is really important for people to get involved. And if you want to and send in photos and things, that'd be great, because it just shows the support that it has.
Okay, that's perfect. Nathan in Somerset says, why now from the Trust? Prices have gone up in the past, obviously not in the last few years, but they have. Why is it now the line has been drawn?
Again, a very good question. I think it's come from essentially quite a few years of frustration at ticket prices and one of the things that we have been sort of fighting in the background on is concessionary pricing in particular, whereby seniors have not been able to access their season's concession when renewing their season ticket. So if you so just for clarification for people who don't know, to get a senior concession, you have to be in an area of the ground that's under £1,200 for your season ticket to be eligible, and you have to hit 65 by a certain age to be eligible. What the club have now said and have now admitted is that those are subject to availability. So even if you are in areas of the ground that are eligible for those, you may not be able to access them because they might not be available. And we've been fighting this battle for about 2 years, I think, sort of getting to the bottom of it, of why aren't concessions being able to be accessed? Why is it not tied to the person, and why is it tied to the seat? And now you're limiting it even more by making them subject to availability per block. And I think it's just a build up of quite a lot of restrictions to ticket prices and increases. And we just think right now is the time that we need to be doing more, because we're not, unfortunately, not getting anywhere with dialogue. So we're going, that's basically why.
Okay. Sarah from London says, I believe the Trust are involved with the Fan Advisory Board. How often does the FAB, FAB, how often does FAB meet with the board? And if the board can just ignore the FAB like they have on the very first meeting, what is the point? There's a fun question for you.
Yes. Okay. So, yes, Sarah, we are involved with the Fan Advisory Board. We have 2 seats on there. So we have 2 board members that are our reps on there. They've currently met twice with Donna Cullen, who is one of the execs on the board.
Ooh, sorry. Carry on.
And yes, you're right in terms of they've been ignored when it comes to ticket pricing. I don't think that's set up the Fan Advisory Board in good stead to begin with from the club. That would have been a great opportunity for them to show that fan engagement has been listened to. But I also know the whole Fan Advisory Board, and they are great people, and they will do their best to make this work, and do their best to hold the club to account on things. So I think it's too early to say whether or not it's going to work or not. But I think if we don't try, then actually what is the point? So if I flip it the other way and say, well, instead of saying, oh, the club don't listen, what's the point? But actually, if we don't actually try it, then it definitely won't work. So we need to give it a go.
Okay, I'm with you. I wouldn't disagree with you anyway, because you're scary, so that's fine. Next one is Tim in London says, do any former players ever get involved with the Trust?
So every year at our barbecue, we get a couple of legends from the foundation that they end up sort of sending, which has been great. Also, when we have our Trust quiz, both these events, by the way, are for charity. Raise for charity.
My understanding is online that these events are to line your pockets for the private jets. Is that incorrect?
I've already told you I've not been on a jet. A private jet, Sam.
Is it the rest of the board? Did they not take you? Oh, wow, that's bang out.
Oh, they're holding out on me, aren't they?
They are. That's so cruel. Yeah.
No, so our barbecue is for prostate cancer. It's a PCUK, and our Trust quiz is for Studio 306, which is a charity in Tottenham that does artwork for mental health, basically. So they get people to come along and teach them some sort of art and things like that, some arts and crafts things. Are any
of the people for that able to paint over a giant mural? Ask him for a friend.
We can ask them. We can give it a go.
Please.
But at that quiz night, actually, for the last 3 years, they've sent Ledley King. And in fact, they sent a whole team, club team that comes along, staff usually. But yeah, Ledley King comes. In the last 2 years, the club team have actually won.
You're joking?
They've
won.
I'm not joking.
That's it. When's the next one? I'm
They've
not having that. I'll
in
be
the
there.
last 2 years.
No, not having that. I'm not having them win anything.
You should see the photos, because Ledley King actually we've given them like medals to wear over. We give them medals, and we're like, oh look, something for the trophy cabinet.
Oh no, don't make that joke. Oh no. Okay, yeah. Maybe not then.
I just
Okay.
had to. Sorry.
We have one last question. You'll be delighted to hear.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is Chloe in Wales. And to be the goodness, I'd do it in a Welsh accent, but that'd be cruel to poor Chloe. She says, "Hello, look you. I've just seen my sheep go past the window. See?" No, she doesn't say that at all. She says,
Poor Chloe.
Yes, it's fine. She's messaged
I
in
apologise
before.
on Sam's behalf, Chloe.
No, I live next to them. They know what I'm like. Chloe in Wales says, "Do the trust believe the club will actually reverse the decision, or do you just hope to make enough noise and to be so painful that they'll think twice in the future?" Maybe both.
I was going to say that's actually quite a good question, Chloe. Yeah, I think both. I think the noise. I mean, we've asked just to go over what we've asked for, because that's important. We've asked for a full reversal on the matchday price increases. We've asked for genuine fan engagement over all ticketing strategies, a whole review basically of all the prices, including concessionary pricing, senior concessions, matchday season ticket, etc.
Yeah.
And we've asked for a commitment to no increases for the 24-25 campaign. So those are our three asks.
And their reply was, "We'll get back to you."
I mean, they've not actually
Even done that.
even responded. I'll be honest, they've not actually even responded to us yet. So we need to make noise for them to come to the table, and that's why it's so important for anyone who agrees with this, and anyone who's, you know, even people that haven't been affected and thinking about it's not just about individual, it's about the collective. So it's really important that we all come together over this and get as many bodies as we can on the match day, because if there's enough of us, I think it would sit up and listen.
I completely agree. And it is about the numbers, and it is about the people and the bodies being there. I know for a fact there's a lot of people who get very frustrated with the unique out, leave you out kind of scenario, and a lot of people just don't want to get embroiled in that level of debate. There's a lot of hostility and a lot of anger in amongst that, and I get that. And I get that, you know, you people, what's the right word? Some people gatekeep this kind of community, like, oh, now you're seeing all the badness, and it's like, no, no, come on, let's not say to people, don't come and join my protest because you should have been here before. Let's say to people, please come and stand here in solidarity, because it's not just about maybe us today. Like I said on the show last week, I personally could afford to go, pay for a ticket, watch a game by myself, meet a friend there. I now cannot afford, based on the prices, to go to watch a Category A or B, maybe a C, and take my daughter like I'd want to. And she's already losing interest. And I'll tell you for why. Because since she was born, she's just turned 15. Since she's been born and aware of football, she started getting aware of it under Mauricio Pochettino and the emergence of a certain Harry Kane. So which player do you think is to her the be-all and end-all? Like Paul Gascoigne was to me as a kid. And when he left, I stupidly carried on supporting the club. And now look where I am. Yeah. She genuinely is now, they don't do anything. Now, to get her to feel passionate about it, the love for it, she needs to go. And this is the point I keep making. You don't get that connection. You know, we've got fans around the world, and they are so devoted and so determined. You've got me here in Bristol, so devoted, so determined to support this club. But when you go in there, you do feel that connection. And for young people especially, that's massive.
It is. You don't get that connection over the TV, you know?
You don't.
It's fun to watch the football, but you don't get that connection. You don't get the buzz of being in the stadium amongst other fans, singing and having fun.
As much as I hate saying this, because I'm a fan and I know we get hit with this constantly, we are not a trophy-laden club. That's just not the model of our owners, and it's not our history. I think 17 major trophies in our entire history. We've had periods where we've been very successful, but overall, compared to other teams, no. We're not that level of club, but
Equally though, Sam, I don't think that even if we were a successful club with loads of trophies and major honours and doing well and everything was hunky-dory, I still don't think that's a justification for increasing the prices.
But please don't think that's where I was going.
No, of course. I'm just sort of making that point.
No, my point I was going with that is you want to attract fans and you want to grab them. A way of doing that on a global scale is to be successful. If you're successful in the Champions League, lifting trophies, you will draw a fan base. Yeah. They might not be the most loyal fan base, though. The ones that are the loyal ones are the ones who go through the gates. They're the ones who have been in the trenches, watched us during the 90s, watched George Graham, watched Jose Mourinho, Conte, the other one, who I can't mention because if I do, I've got to play his song. Do you know about that?
No.
Have you ever seen the Disney film We Don't Talk About Bruno?
Yes, love that film.
Yeah, well...
Great film. Well, that's not the Disney film. It's called Encanto, but yeah, that's the song.
Sorry, yes, yeah, the song. Well, we appointed a certain manager, which was a waste of time, and on this show we don't talk about him.
I see. Nuno, yes.
We don't talk about no. We don't talk about no.
You believe that someone actually did that for me?
That's amazing.
I know.
That's so good.
Yeah, and anytime anyone says that, I play that anytime, and to the point I've got to it though, I have to go, the one we don't talk about, because if I have to hear that again and again. But as you're new, I thought it would be fun, and also people message in and get quite annoyed with me when I don't play it. So, I've gone through all the questions. I've got nothing else to say other than the fact, thank you so much for coming on. You've been a delight, like I knew you would be. I know you've got a very busy week talking to everyone with a mic. But I'm not feeling used at all. I'm not feeling like, just being upstaged by all these other people. It's, it's fine. It's whatever, but you were here first. So, no. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap this up?
I just want to again just make the point about please, if you're going to the game, the United game, please pop in, see what you think, speak to us, join the protest. It's going to be respectful, it's going to be peaceful, but it's also going to be hopefully very strong. And we need to get the point across that the ticket price increases are not a necessity for this club, and they need to think twice about it, because we're going to end up pricing a lot of people out of the game, and we don't want that.
No, I agree. On our Facebook page and Instagram, we're going to be putting the message out all week as a reminder. We will be back on the podcast on Thursday, where we're going to be discussing the Brentford game and looking ahead to the Man United game, and obviously I'll do a reminder on that show as well. Because this lady said she'd get me if I didn't. She's very scary. I'm joking. She's lovely. Please don't get me. Anyway, massive thank you for you coming on. Massive thank you again to everybody for listening. We'll be back very soon.
Thank you for listening to the Spurs News Podcast. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Stay up to date with all things Tottenham. Follow us on social media. All links are in the podcast description.